Baltimore bridge collapses after being hit by cargo ship. New Zealand accuses China-backed hackers of cyberattacks. Russian court charges 4 men with act of terrorism. Japan changes ban on exporting lethal weapons. China slams the US for interfering in border dispute with India. Pompeii building site reveals ancient Roman construction methods.
Hello, I'm Wade Lee. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It is Wednesday, March 27th, and here are your top stories. The landmark Francis Scott Key Bridge in the U.S. city of Baltimore has collapsed after a cargo ship collided with it. Several vehicles that were crossing the bridge, which is more than 2.6 kilometers long, plunged into the water of the Patapsco River. City officials say that at around 1:30 a.m. local time, a ship struck a column on the 47-year-old bridge, causing it to collapse. A number of vehicles, including one the size of a tractor trailer, plunged into the water below.
The container ship, named by ship tracking data as the Singapore-flagged Dali, was on its way to Colombo in Sri Lanka. The massive rescue operation is being led by the Baltimore Fire Department, the U.S. Coast Guard, and other agencies from the state of Maryland. According to the Singapore Port Authority, its management company, Synergy Marine Private Limited, reported that the 288.95 meters vessel had experienced a momentary loss of propulsion and dropped anchors as part of emergency procedures before impact. According to Synergy, the Dali, owned by Grace Ocean Private Limited, rammed into one of the pillars of the bridge. All 22 crew members aboard the vessel were accounted for. Besides impacts to auto shipments, the port closure could force shippers to divert Baltimore-bound cargo from containers to bulk material. It could create bottlenecks and increase delays and costs on the eastern seaboard.
New Zealand has accused China of malicious cyber activity linked to Chinese state actors who targeted its parliament in 2021. New Zealand's Foreign Minister Winston Peters said on Tuesday that the government expressed concerns today about malicious cyber activity attributed to groups sponsored by the Chinese government. It comes one day after the US and UK claimed China-linked hackers were behind a cyber espionage campaign that stole British vote data and targeted millions of individuals, including lawmakers, academics, journalists, and defense contractors.
Australia has also joined in condemning China's alleged cyber attacks targeting UK democratic institutions and parliamentarians. While Australia's electoral systems were not compromised by the cyber campaigns that targeted the UK, a statement from the Minister of Foreign Affairs said that the persistent targeting of democratic institutions and processes has implications for democratic and open societies like Australia. In 2019, Australian intelligence reportedly determined China was responsible for a cyber attack on its national parliament and 3 largest political parties before a general election, though the government never officially disclosed a culprit. China has repeatedly disputed US and UK claims of cyber interference.
Russia has charged 4 men it says attacked a Moscow concert hall and killed at least 137 people. All 4 appear to have been beaten, and one was brought to court in a wheelchair. They were charged with committing an act of terrorism. The Islamic State group said it carried out Friday's outrage at Crocus City Hall and posted video evidence. Russian officials have claimed, without evidence, Ukrainian involvement. Kyiv said the claim is absurd. On Monday, 3 days after the attack, Russian President Vladimir Putin told senior officials, "We know that the crime was committed by hands of radical Islamists, followers of an ideology that the Islamic world itself has been fighting against for centuries."
But he also insisted that the attackers were linked to the Ukrainian government. He had said so in his first reaction on Saturday, claiming Kyiv had prepared a window to allow them to cross the border and escape into its territory. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky angrily dismissed that claim, saying it was absolutely predictable that Vladimir Putin would blame it on Ukraine instead of dealing with his Russian citizens, addressing them. On Monday, Mr. Putin claimed Kyiv, what he called the neo-Nazi regime, was behind the attack because it wanted to sow panic in our society and at the same time show their population that all is not lost for the Kiev regime. A graphic video released by IS, showing attackers firing on the crowd inside the concert hall, has been verified as genuine by the BBC.
Japan's cabinet okayed a plan to sell future next-generation fighter jets to other countries on Tuesday, its latest step away from the pacifist principle that the country adopted at the end of World War II. The controversial decision to allow international arms sales is expected to help secure Japan's role in a year-old project to develop a new fighter jet together with Italy and the UK. But it's also part of a move to build up Japan's arms industry and bolster its role in global affairs. For now, Tokyo says that it doesn't plan to export co-developed lethal weapons other than the new fighters, which aren't expected to enter service until 2035.
On Tuesday, the cabinet approved a revision to its guidelines for selling defense equipment overseas and authorized sales of the future jet. The government says that it has no plans to export other co-developed lethal weapons under the guidelines, and it would require cabinet approval to do so. Japan has long prohibited most arms exports under the country's pacifist constitution, although it's begun to take steps toward a change amid rising regional and global tensions. In 2014, it began to export some non-lethal military supplies, and last December, it approved a change that would allow sales of 80 lethal weapons and components that it manufactures under licenses from other countries back to the licensors.
China slammed the United States for interfering in its border dispute with India, after Washington said it recognized the disputed Arunachal Pradesh as part of Indian territory. Chinese Foreign Minister spokesperson Lin Jian said Thursday at a news conference in Beijing that China strongly deplores and firmly opposes this. The China-India boundary question is a matter between the two countries and has nothing to do with the U.S. side. It is the latest in an escalating dispute between neighboring India and China, which shares a border more than 2,000 miles long.
The response comes after the U.S. on Wednesday rejected China's unilateral attempts to advance its territorial claims, weighing in on a spat between New Delhi and Beijing after Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated a tunnel in the northeast Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. China, which refers to the territory as Zangnan, claims Arunachal Pradesh is part of southern Tibet. India rejects those claims, stating Arunachal Pradesh has always been a part of India. On Wednesday, the U.S. State Department weighed in on the matter. Spokesperson Vedant Patel said, "The United States recognizes Arunachal Pradesh as Indian territory, and we strongly oppose any unilateral attempts to advance territorial claims by incursions or encroachments, military or civilian, across the line of actual control."
Italy's cultural minister said on Monday that archaeologists in Pompeii have unearthed an ancient building site that shed light on construction techniques used by the Romans to make iconic structures such as the Colosseum and the Pantheon. The ministry said in a statement that the site was probably active until the volcanic Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD, destroying Pompeii in southern Italy. The archaeologists found working tools, stacked roof tiles, tough bricks, and heaps of lime and stone used to create walls.
The ministry said, citing findings by the archaeologists who worked with researchers from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, that the Romans had an original technique for making cement. The Pompeii site, rediscovered only in the 16th century, has seen a burst of recent archaeological activity aimed at halting years of decay and neglect. Concrete appeared to have been made through hot mixing, whereby quicklime was initially mixed with dry pozzolana, or pozzolanic ash, with water added only shortly before walls were erected. Archaeologists also found amphory storage jars which were used to quench the lime used for plastering, as well as to store other tools, from lead weights used to erect a perfectly vertical wall to iron hose to prepare mortar and work lime.
The answer for yesterday was B, intruding. The government is considering legislation to stop newspapers from intruding on people's private lives. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of Baltimore Bridge collapses after being hit by cargo ship. Number 1, collide, 碰撞, 相撞. The car and the van collided head-on in thick fog. Number 2, plunge, 道路表面陡峭地向下倾斜. The track plunged down into the valley. Number 3, column, 圆柱状物, 柱形物. The explosion sent a column of smoke thousands of feet into the air. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comments section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's it for today's Funday news. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Wadley, your host. I'll see you next time.